The next thing we're going to take a look at is features and options. So again, you can either click the button here on the main screen, or you can click it over here on the left. I'll just click it here. And this is where we start breaking down who, what, when, where, why, and how we program and what tools get called where. And what we're going to start with is we're just going to start with feature and operations. A lot of these, once we go through them, it'll be the same setup for each one of these. They just have different things that they're going to look at. So in feature and operations, you can see that we have a list, and a pretty extensive list of things here. And at first, for most people, it looks pretty overwhelming. We're going to break this down into sections. Okay, so the first section is the feature type. So when you go to CamWorks, for example, and we come in here and we insert a 2.5 axis feature, we pick a feature type. So you have hole, pocket, slot, corner, slot, curve feature, engrave feature, all that good stuff right here. This feature type is the same as what you would find right here. The difference is, instead of just doing 2.5 axis feature, this list is for everything. So let's say we want to look at a circular pocket. So as we have circular pocket, you can see that we have a regular pocket, we have rectangular pocket, and circular pocket right here. All three of these pieces of information get grouped in CamWorks under the type pocket. And then CamWorks will determine, based on the geometry or the shape, whether it's circular, rectangular, or irregular. That's done automatically. You don't have to pick which type of pocket. You just select pocket. Now, when we look at the TechnologI database and we look at circular pocket, then we start looking down in this matrix. And this starts looking at depth. And you'll notice you have phrases that are very similar to SOLIDWORKS, blind and through. And those are just like a SOLIDWORKS feature. If it's a blind pocket, which means it's just a cut to a depth, and it still is in the part, it doesn't go all the way through it, then it's going to look at blind. If it goes through, like if you cut something all the way through a part, then it's going to be through. And from there, we look at, for a blind pocket, we have a roughing strategy. So if we just want to rough it, we have a blind if we want to finish, and then we have a blind if we want to rough and then rest. And you can see we have rough volume mill, rough finish, edge. So these end up being a lot of the same type of feature, subtype, just for different types of strategies, because you may just want to create a pocket and rough it only. Well, then it's going to look here. If you wanted a pocket with rough and finish, then you would come down here and you'd have blind for rough and finish. Now, you can select it based on material type. You can select it based on an attribute, like right here it's a radius. So if someone put a fillet in the bottom, then it's going to look at this feature here. But what becomes interesting here is this information right here, these 4 columns. When you create geometry in SOLIDWORKS, you define the size and shape of anything. You can create a rectangle, you can create a circle, and you put a diameter in it, you put a depth in it, and that's what makes it 3D. CamWorks, through the TechnologI database, looks at that same information automatically. It has specifications. Is it a blind pocket? Are we roughing it? Are there any bottom radiuses on it? Nope. Okay, what about material type? Well, we cover all material here, so we're not worried about that. Then we get to diameter or size. So if it's a rectangle, it'll be different. If it's a circular pocket, then it's a diameter. And we can say if the diameter is between 0 and 1,000 inches, I want you to use this one. If the feature depth is between 0 and 1,000 inches, then I want you to use this one. And what that does is it starts categorizing your geometry on the fly. And you can see we have spindle attribute over here. That's for milling and turning, or mill turn. And you'll notice that it starts selecting based on the size of feature. And if we look at rectangular pocket, then we have box width and box width. But it all finds the same thing. So as you have your model inside of SolidWorks, CamWorks recognizes this hole and says, okay, the diameter of this hole is 0.33. If I'm going to do a circular pocket on this, it falls in between 0 and 1,000 inches. And then on the depth, close out of that command, on the depth, we're at 0.503. We have a condition that says if we're through between 0 and 1,000 inches, that's what we want to use. And then it starts looking down this list. And again, this is the how, when, where, and why. So you can see if you were to manually go through here, you could change any of these features. And you can manually edit all of this, and you can go through Access, and you can create all that information the way you want. And it is a very effective way to do it. You could say, if I have a rectangular box that's between 0 and 1 inch, I want you to do this feature. If it's between 1 inch and 10 inches, I want you to use this type of strategy. And you can define all that as you go. This is the scenario where I like to be able to just program my parts, set it, and then when I do save operation plan automatically adjusts this information for you. You no longer have to specifically tell it which size or where it's being used. It just takes the information you already did in interactive mode and just puts it in the database for you. So from here, we're just going to hit close.